Friends.
Hello, Paul.
Thank you all so much for being here and joining the summer school. So the role I have between Dennis and I is to kind of lay out our day and the structure and kind of the context of why we're coming together and what it is that we're looking at. And I thought I could actually read some from the recent letter from the Universal House of Justice to the Baha'is of the United States. Just a few extracts throughout, but one thing they said is, a moment of historic portent has arrived for your nation as the conscience of its citizenry has stirred, creating possibilities for marked social change. It holds significance not only for the destiny of America anticipated in the sacred writings, but also for the mission entrusted to your community by the hand of Abdul-Baha, who cherished you dearly and called you to a path of sacrifice and high endeavor. So friends, we're at a moment in our country where the issues of racism and prejudice are at the forefront of the consciousness of our country. And, these aren't new issues, but we've had, recent media attention to the deaths of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and many others who maybe haven't gained as much media attention. And so this critical issue has long affected our country. And several years ago, the National Spiritual Assembly of the Baha'is of the United States was invited to the Holy Land in Haifa, Israel, to visit with the Universal House of Justice. And one question that was asked of the National Assembly was, what is the status of race relations within your country? This was one of the pressing questions that the Universal House of Justice wanted to talk about. And as a result of the consultations, the National Spiritual Assembly came back and appointed a committee along with the Office of Education and Schools to develop a material that could help us begin to have conversations and think about these relations and think about how we can work towards the establishment of race unity and harmony between different peoples. And so the materials that we're going to be studying this weekend are those materials. And it's part 2 of a 2-part material. And so last year, the part 1 materials were studied, and this year we're looking at the sequel to those materials, which follows case studies of families working in the context of community building activities, holding prayer gatherings for their friends, study circles, children's classes, junior youth groups, and using these opportunities to have conversations about racism, about prejudice, to impact their community. And so we're reading case studies. The material that we'll be studying is case studies of conversations about race, about racism, about prejudice. And the hope is for us to be able to look at these case studies and learn from these conversations to think about how we ourselves might have similar conversations. The summer school is really set up in the context for families to think about how they together can work toward race unity. And so each of the case studies focuses on these families advancing together. And so over the course of today and tomorrow, we will be looking at these different Zoom sessions that each one is broken around one of these case studies that we'll look at. Sorry, friends. One thing that I wanted to also share from the letter was in these case studies from the Universal House of Justice letter, we also read, the power to transform the world is affected by love, love originating from the relationship with the divine, love ablaze among the members of a community, love extended without restriction to every human being. This divine love, ignited by the word of God, is disseminated by enkindled souls through intimate conversations that create new susceptibilities in human hearts. open minds to moral persuasion, and loosen the hold of biased norms in social systems so that they can gradually take on a new form in keeping with the requirement of humanity's age of maturity. And so each of the case studies that we'll be looking at is really demonstrating these enkindled, uplifted, and heightened spiritual conversations. And so maybe each of us can take in some of these different ideas and bring them back to our communities. One more thing that I'll say is I think this is the first time any of us are having a summer school on Zoom. So we're all approaching it in a spirit of humility. So we hope you'll please have patience with us as we're all learning about this new format and way of working together, and really appreciate that. And I will turn it over to my co-facilitator, Dennis, right now.
Thank you very much, friends. And thank you very much, Eric, for that very great, uh, those words to get us started. First and foremost, friends, you are loved. I think that any endeavor such as this, and I think Eric shared this in his comments, love is an important part of it. So you should know that I pray for you all. I pray for our summer school, and I echo Eric's sentiments about you all being lovingly patient with us as we try this grand endeavor. Um, I thought I would share a few different thoughts um, to perhaps provide a little bit more context. Um, in much of the guidance we've been reading, it talks about things such as capacity building. It talks about the importance of us growing as a community, finding collaborators. I mention that because we are being asked to be a part of a grand event, which is the transformation of the world. And doing so takes a village. This is our village. And we certainly hope that today, starting with the family and hopefully going on through your individual communities and workplaces, we hope that we give you tools, give you insights to allow you to further this conversation about racial unity. I would also say that I know that this can be a scary time. Um, we are in a place, these are uncharted waters for many people, but again, we are told in the guidance that you, your families, have the ability to make change. And I think to that end, very briefly, I'll just tell you two quick stories that really, I think, kind of illustrate the power that we have. Um, Many of us, I'm sure, have had our bumps and bruises on social media. And I lovingly tell the friends that I know I personally had to figure out ways to modulate and modify what I say as as a result of the guidance we've been given in that area. And to that end, I found myself when I would be on conversations or be in conversations with people unlike me, I really tried to find ways to either elevate a conversation or further understanding. And there's a particular instance with somebody who certainly did not reflect my views. And there would have been a time when much of my conversation with this individual online would have been very different. But in thinking about what we've been asked to do, to try to connect with people, I really tried to change how I spoke in the words I would use. And it was very interesting to see over time that particular person's comments seemed to change. Not from a standpoint of me trying to necessarily get them um, to completely see my point of view, but I'm simply making the point that I believe that my conversation, keeping it loving, um, provided um, a different atmosphere, a different way for our conversations to take place. And as we proceed, friends, hopefully you will find tools and things to allow your conversations to change on a daily basis. Um, the other story I would tell is we've all been asked to hold devotional meetings. And we're also told that many of our that our core activities are actually the prescription to address the issues we face on a fundamental level. And to that end, there was a very kind woman in my area, and I just told myself I was going to try to nurture a friendship with her. She seemed to be a little ill and a little unstable, but we would chat. At first, she wouldn't chat. First, she wouldn't even talk to me. Let me just start there. But eventually, she would wave. And then the wave went from stopping to chat for a few moments. But then something really interesting happened. When the protests first began, or when they did first begin, I got a knock at my door. I went, and it was this neighbor of mine, and she handed me an envelope. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know if I'd done something wrong. But when I opened it up, what she shared was a desire to be an ally. She went on to say that these issues, and by the way, preface this, I apologize. She wasn't a brown person like me. She looked a little, she was a dear European American friend. But she shared in her note a desire to be an ally and a thankfulness that I was willing to connect with her, to give her an opportunity to to be to to be a part of the solution. I say these two stories just to say this: the things that we do matter, and the things that we do can make a change. Um, and friends, I'm so excited about what we're um, planning to do over the next couple of days, because I know that we'll all emerge with new tools that will allow us to hopefully bring about the transformation of the world. Um, to close, just a few final things. Um, Number one, these are really amazing materials that you're going to study. They are the result of a lot of deepening, a lot of trials, tests. So, not to say you all are guinea pigs, but you all are among the first. Um, Again, as Eric stated in his comments, it's really important too that we really confirm for everybody this idea of the importance of the family as being a true protagonist in this. And then finally, the last thing I would share, again, we thank you in advance for your patience. There will be bumps in the road. Um, I took this excerpt from the materials, and it says, "Let this be our watchword. Beloved friends, let every word we choose to share be expressed with milk and honey, avoiding contention in expressing one's opinion, being always striving to be in a humble posture of learning. We are trained by the exemplar of every Baha'i ideal and virtue, Abdul Baha, to walk in the ways of love and cooperation. And the standard he sets for us is high indeed." So, friends, while I am sure I will fall short in so many ways of that standard, please know that my heart is full with love for each of you. Um, Feel free to grab Eric or I with any questions you have. And as you move throughout the next couple of days, aside from just the things you're learning, be thinking about what you will be doing. This endeavor is more than a conversation. It's really meant to help us leave this place with very, very clear ideas of how we can be a part of this grand endeavor and what we can do. So thank you all very much. And I will turn it back over to Cher.